Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another Rupal's Chatty Women. I hope that you're well. We want loads of likes. We want loads of comments on some of the topics that we're talking about. There's lots of love hearts and
hearts
thumbs up
good.
and
hearts are really good.
All that kind of stuff. We're going to be talking about various things today. 3 topics as usual. So around about 15 minutes. Would love your company on this beautiful sunny afternoon. 3 topics. What makes you laugh? I'll let Elaine explain why we're going to be talking about that in just a moment. How do you deal with arguments at home? Rabiha is responsible for that one and causing the arguments, I think, at home too. And how good are you, or how good are men at sharing their emotions or showing their emotions? And I'll explain why I want to talk about that for the next 15 minutes or so. But let me introduce you. In fact, the ladies will introduce themselves. Off you go, darling.
All right, yes. Well, I'm Elaine Pantling, actress extraordinaire, and I'm here, I'm speaking now with my sort of Shakespearean voice. And I'm speaking from the diaphragm, and anyway, I think that's enough from me. To you, is that all right?
Yes, that's fine.
Have I said enough?
Yeah, she's a comedian extraordinaire.
Yes, I'm from Leicester, so that's it.
I'm not quite sure how to follow that. I feel like I need to be a comedian, but I just wouldn't be funny at all. So my name's Rabiha Hanan. I'm actually a pharmacist by training, but I do lots of sort of bridge building type activities in my spare time on behalf of organisations like New Horizons and British Islam, or the Islamic Society of Britain, or one of the other ones that you may have heard of.
See, she was brilliant.
That sounds really professional.
When you said I'm a pharmacist, I'm thinking, what have I got wrong with you? What do I say? You know, actually got this pain. Just, but anyway,
you can see how this is going to go.
I think we might get a bit distracted. So
I think so.
Control.
Look, I mean, you make me laugh, Elaine Pantling. Yes. You genuinely do.
Thank you.
That's why you get invited onto the programme, I think.
Yeah.
But look, you wanted to talk about things that make people laugh for a very good reason. Explain why.
Well, I don't want to really do it down too much, but I was watching Comic Relief, and I was so excited about watching it. I think it's such a great organisation. I think that what they do and the charities that they support and the way they bring communities together, and all the schools sort of get involved as well. And I would say that I was a little disappointed. There wasn't a lot that made me laugh. And in fact, some of the things that I thought were quite tasteless. And I found that quite upsetting, you know, especially when you think that families, you know, it's a family show.
Well, we brought the kids, you know, so the kids have gone to school. They've done a little bit of Comic Relief stuff at school. And they're really excited about having these last, couple of hours in the day watching Comic Relief. And we had to turn it off.
I know.
I think quite a lot of people actually did.
Yeah.
But regardless of that, you know, the aim is that it's to raise money, and I think they did a great job. Over 71 million pounds was
awesome. And you've got to. And the thing about it is that I think that if I was going to give them any advice, it would be not to do it in such a large venue. Yeah. Because I think that sort of took away the intimacy of it. And we all like to laugh. You know, we look forward to having a laugh, you know. And there's that thing, you know, in comedy and tragedy are so linked together, you know, that we do this thing where we laugh at something and then we can cry at something. And it's really important to have that. And that's one of the things that I think Comic Relief do generally really well.
So moving on from that, I thought we could talk about the things that actually make us laugh.
Yeah.
Robbie, should we start off with you? What sort of things?
Well, you know what? I've just been thinking about this, and it's a really difficult one to sort of put my finger on, because I think I'm actually very picky about comedy and humour. So not everything, you know, people will have to work hard to make me laugh, but when I see it, it makes me laugh, and I can't put my finger on what that is. It has to be very natural. For me, a comedian, what's really difficult about it is that they need to be really intelligent, because they need to be able to really get what's going on, the politics or whatever it is in that subject, and then be able to make people laugh about it. And I think that's really hard. So you have to have this enormous amount of confidence, which you exude clearly. But I think that's a difficult balance to get. But there are things.
Do you laugh at things that you can relate to more so? Do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I was just saying, Randa really makes me laugh. Even though got Comic Relief, I think it could have been better. But who's the other comedian? The one that always talks about everyday stuff. What's his name?
A man.
The man that walks up and down and just sort of is really descriptive about Michael McIntyre.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't like him.
Do you not?
Oh, I
Oh,
forgot
I
to
find
introduce
him
the mystery voice.
No, she's ever so funny, isn't she? She's funny.
Funny looking.
Standing there and we're laughing. I really like. I quite like Michael McIntyre, but I mean, I do really obviously the late great Victoria Wood. She was absolutely brilliant. Beryl Reid. She is my hero.
Don't you think we've missed out on all the great women because they weren't given as much kind of publicity as the men?
Yeah.
Because Michael McIntyre, it's like, do you know that walk of yours really annoys me?
Stand still.
And that's the reason why I switch off. Well, occasionally when I do watch telly.
I love slapstick and sort of character. I love characters.
So apart from specific people, it's the situations for me, I think, that make me laugh.
Yeah.
I have to say, my husband actually makes me laugh quite a lot. He does make me laugh on a daily basis by just doing really randomly daft things, which I quite
Is he
like.
laughing with you, or are you just laughing at
I'm
him?
normally laughing with him, actually, and occasionally I do laugh at him.
Okay.
Which is not very nice.
Here is a faux pas. Someone's written Victorian Woods was a national treasure, which is absolutely fantastic.
Don't knock it.
No, exactly. Maimuna says, yes, please introduce her. We had Sandra Pollock earlier saying, lovely to see you ladies. And I'm sure there's a few more. And we've had loads of hearts and loads of likes.
Tell us what makes you laugh, whether it's situations, if you've had a really funny moment that you can share with us on Facebook Live, then do so and share this video with as many people as possible. You can comment afterwards as well.
It's really hard.
Gosh, we've had about 10 hearts and fly across. We've had.
Women, I just think because it's comedy is one of those things that people constantly criticise because they're looking for some sort of idea.
It's that thing that
get
makes me laugh.
everything with it. They don't. It's not just the comedy that people are looking at. It's the sexism that they.
Ladies. Sorry, how is this for an accolade? Samina says this is better than Loose Women.
Thank you very much, Samina. That's very kind of you. Is she your friend or mine?
I don't know her. Thank you.
But Samina, whoever you are,
Wait, she's come out.
She's come out. We're going to plug the microphone back in, so apologies. Slight disruption.
We're back.
Hopefully you can hear us loud and clear now.
It could not be the
comedy of errors.
Sound. That it's all it
is this. You just need it in black and white as well now. It'd be perfect.
Right, so what makes you laugh? One of the topics on the show today, I want to talk about something completely different. In fact, the opposite. I want to talk about Rio Ferdinand to some degree. It was the programme that was aired on BBC One earlier in the week, Being Mum and Dad. Did you all watch it, ladies?
Oh, yes, I did. I did. Found it really hard watch. It was really difficult, really emotional, and I almost had to sort of pause on certain parts and sort of get things out of my system and then sort of move on. But
it was really interesting. So my husband actually watched half of it. I think I'm not sure whether he purposely stayed away from the telly for the first half. He came in, but what I found was interesting. It was really heartbreaking. It was really interesting to see his journey, sort of opening up about his grief, how he dealt with the children. But it kind of got me to thinking about men in general and what they are like when it comes to sharing their emotions. I know, and the other half is probably going to kill me for saying this, but he doesn't actually open up a great deal. Okay. He keeps a lot of things to himself. Yeah. And I find that quite frustrating at times because and I think most women are much more open.
But is it to do with socialisation and culturalisation? Because I know for my generation, it was very much about big boys don't cry. Whereas I think as a parent of young men, I've tried to make sure that they are socialised in a different way. They're socialised like my girls in order to make sure that they can talk about their emotions.
I think it's really important, isn't it? You know, that men are able to share in that particular way. I know my husband's he's a very proud man, and so sometimes his pride will stop him. Yeah. But then there are other times when he just can't help but get emotional. And that is when something absolutely touches him, his heart, and he just
But
can't...
does he talk about that, or is that just emotions in the form of crying, or...
No, he will
express himself.
Yeah, talk about it. You know, it's like that thing when you've been around somebody that has, you know, that you love has died or suffering with cancer or whatever. You know, to sort of not talk about it is I think it's really hard, isn't it?
Do you think we make it easier for them to talk or harder?
So I'm just finding this fascinating, what you're saying, you know, because I think there is a societal sort of pressure of what masculinity looks like, and there's a sort of this perception of, you know, a man shouldn't cry, or a man has to be stronger and harder and, you know, sort of hold everything together. But actually, Laurent, my husband, is really interesting, because he's the one that's probably more open in our relationship than me. Yeah. So he's better with his emotions and speaking about it. Not to everybody. So he's not a public person. He doesn't have to put it on Facebook and whatever. No. But if there's anything that's bothering him, the vast majority of the time, at least I think, he will come and he'll talk about it, and that's really nice for me. But it took me a lot longer in our relationship to sort of open up and feel comfortable with sharing that emotion, not just with him, just with anyone. It's just the way that I am.
Right. Patricia says, thought the memory jar was a wonderful idea. I guess that's from the programme.
It is.
And then Lee
that's
says,
right.
it's tough as it's seen as a weakness in society if a man shows his emotions. Sooner that changes, the better, in my opinion. So,
But how do we change that, Lee? How do we, as as men, and we as women, actually help change that,
to encourage
that? There's got to be a way.
I think there's something in this. Here we are as women talking. We're willing to put ourselves on the line and say, "Here I am. This is what I'm feeling." And whereas men have that slap your back, hey ho.
No, but honestly, I think you know what you said about you know how you raise your children makes a massive difference, and I worry sometimes that are we, you know, almost sort of blindly falling into the same trap as sometimes, you know, the previous generation did, without realising that actually we are sort of making people fit into the mould of male and female in this particular.
How many children?
So it's, you know, it's really heartening to see that you have this conscientious effort that you make.
How many children do you have?
We've got 4. And we've got one boy.
And how many boys? One boy.
One boy.
How do you treat him differently?
No, we try. It's really interesting because they've all 4 of them have got such completely different personalities. So in some ways you have to treat them all slightly differently, because you have to sort of make sure they all reach their own sort of potential and give them their own space and their own time. But with respect to how, you know, homely tasks or responsibilities, all very much the same. You know, he has to load the dishwasher or wipe the table in very much the same way.
When it comes to talking to
but emotionally as well. I mean, I think it's been a journey, because it's one of those areas that we can't mimic from our parents, because it was done in the way that we think is wrong, whereas everything else seems to have fallen into place. That's what Mum would have done. But with that, actually, we've you know, both of us, I think, have actively tried to instill this idea of, you know, express your emotions. So if you need to cry if you need to cry. If you're troubled by a situation, then, you know, explain that situation to us. And I think it's made for him, being such a sensitive little soul, bless him, he's only 11.
Do you think there are cultural differences as well? And I'm talking to you on Facebook Live, if you are tuning in right now. Are there cultural differences as well? I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. Do perhaps Asian men have it harder? I don't know than perhaps white men or black guys. Are there cultural differences and expectations of men?
I mean, from my experience, I would certainly say culture would play a part in that, because there are, you know, and I think what's good about British culture is that we have explored it more, we've talked about it more, and it's become something that we feel at least we need to address, even if we don't do it.
You mean the sort of stiff upper lip thing?
Yeah.
You know, and I think there's something to be said with not just men but women as well. You know, in that kind of if you look back in history, you know, it's all about, you know. We've got to get on with it. We need to do it. You know, just straighten your back up and walk into the situation and don't talk about it. But I think as a whole, society is changing because of things like this, because of discussions and stuff. You know, so I think that it is changing. So I think there's room for men to be more emotional, to be, you know, to wear things on their sleeve a bit.
Do we as a culture now have access to a lot more information, a lot more kind of people by virtue of the technologies that we have, that we can access things. Because like nowadays, you could put a little video on if you're feeling upset about how can I sort out feeling like this, because whereas in the past there wasn't all of that, so it was that kind of stiff upper lip.
Yeah.
Lee's got something else to say. He says the previous generation seems quite bad at showing emotions, but my gen do seem to be a bit more open. So hopefully it's started to change for the better.
Yeah, I think
Right.
that's right.
Keep your comments coming in, please, your likes and shares on this, because you can always comment on anything we've talked about on this programme.
But just on that, I'm just sort of thinking it through, whatever. Because I think, I mean, in much the same way that sometimes you sort of categorise men and meant to have sort of male type emotions and what have you, we do the same for women as well. And what we're finding more and more is actually every individual, I think, is actually on a spectrum. You know, so there could almost be an amalgamation of, you know, the male and female on that spectrum that we're not even really exploring.
Also, the whole thing about women as well, that we've been accused of being over emotional, because we're over emotional, then we're not going to be taken seriously. Yeah. If you sort of go right back to when the suffragette movement was on the increase, that was one of the things that they absolutely said. You know, how can we give these women a vote, give these women a voice, when all they say is based on emotion?
Yeah, that's right.
You know, it's really interesting, isn't it? You know, that actually we're embracing it now.
Yeah.
We can
talk
share
about everything. We can cry at the drop of a hat, and I do.
Yeah.
Trust me. We're going to leave that subject for now. Okay. And move on to the third and final one for today. And Rabia, this is your responsibility.
Oh my goodness.
So, dear Rabia's husband, blame her.
I'm not going to talk about arguments, as I said, because we might get into an argument when I go home, and I really don't want to do that.
Lawyers.
No, we never argue, myself and my husband, because he was tuning in. No. I thought we'd talk about, rather than arguments per se, because actually, to be fair, on the big issues, I'm really lucky because we do get on. So if it's feminism or if it's human rights or social action type thing, I think we're both very much on the same page. So we're okay with that. It's the little, sort of the little things that you sort of mundane acts that people don't seem to think are a big deal that really get under your skin sometimes. Like, me wanting to put cushions or throws on the settee or the bed, and him walking into the room and thinking, no, what is all this? And just throwing it into when you've just irritating, you put time and effort. At least fold it and put it away nicely if you're going to. But it's just the lack of respect.
So it's the little irritations we're talking about rather than arguments.
Yeah.
I think she's got out of that quite nicely.
It's the crunching up cornflakes in the morning, and say, are you singing it or playing it?
Other cereals are available. Can I point out?
Just to say,
yes. So it's cereals that's an issue in your home, is it?
All sorts of things like that. Yeah, I think sometimes when I'm in that kind of when I'm in that time of the, I don't know when it is. I'm blaming premenstrual tension or something, which was long gone.
Don't blame that.
Anyway, I won't. But it's just and there's the thing. Last night, he's not going to listen, so it's okay. Yesterday, I said to him, I was doing loads of different things. We multitask, don't we? We do. I'm doing the dinner. I've been hoovering. I'm doing all sorts. And I stripped the bed. And new sheets and stuff wanted to be put on. And he said, I'll do it. I said, all right, and that's lovely. I went upstairs.
Oh, bless.
Was it a nightmare?
It was awful.
So I think they do this on purpose. I think they do that. I think that's a thing. That, if you want to get out of it in the future, do it really badly, and then you won't be asked again.
No, and the corners, I'm so particular about my corners.
You have to give your obsessive disorders a break
Okay.
Because actually it's not healthy for you to get pissed off about things that are so trivial.
So look, let's move away from the more trivial. So this is another sort of bane.
Okay.
So we'll both go to quite a lot of meetings or, events or programs outside, and sometimes because we've got kids on our own, and then we'll come back and we'll want a complete breakdown of who was there, what happened, what was said, and I'll quite happily entertain that idea, share all of that information. Then he'll go to an event the next day. I get nothing. I get no information.
Do you get those?
It was all right.
Yeah.
Who was there? I've already explained. No, you haven't. You haven't told me anything about it at all.
But what he might have on the drive back, might have said, this is what I'm going to tell Rabia, and this is what I'm going to... And so according to him, he's told you it.
Yes, that's funny, isn't it?
That's a very good
Can you
point.
relate to that?
That's actually a very good point. Have we had any comments? Mystery voice.
We've got why, but I don't know what the why question is.
Who's the why
It's
from?
Maimuna.
Oh, okay.
Maimuna.
Okay.
Lovely May.
So I think she's just got lots of qualms clearly with her. Why about everything?
Although it's not quite right to say that there is a male brain and female brain, scientists have discovered that there is a spectrum of differences in the ways that men and women deal with communication.
She's such a
That's
scientific.
very good, Sandra.
Thanks, Sandra.
Is
that
Thank you.
Herbert? Is
But
it?
it's,
No,
Is that
Sandra
Sandra?
Bullock.
Oh,
But it's that
Sandra.
thing, isn't it, about
This is your topic,
we
Sandra.
do argue over trivial things, but my argument, and I think we were talking about this earlier, I generally argue with myself.
Do you really?
So over to you, Rupal. That argument thing. Do you know when we go? You know when we do this? I argue with the door, which is my husband. So he
Do you
doesn't
beat
argue
the
back.
door up?
No,
You
he
are?
doesn't.
Okay,
No,
that's
I don't get
So
that.
all right, so I'll explain it. So my husband's in the room, and I'm going at him, and he does not answer back. So it's almost like I am talking to the door or the wall.
Yes.
So
So
it's not really their type.
yeah, so it's kind of like the argument.
Ripple sounds. She looks
What?
really. She feel. You know, it sounds like she can relate to this. a
I
little
think
bit.
she
I very much can actually. If me and the other half have an argument, it's normally me that's doing the screaming and the shouting, and I get nothing back.
So I find that really,
Nothing.
really funny.
And I find that really frustrating though. I get really wound up.
So I'm Richard. in this
Yeah,
case.
but the thing is, it's like the second he will dare to say anything mid-argument, I will jump on him.
I love that.
And just rip him to shreds. And
That's how I used to be. Now,
What,
it's
literally?
Oh,
Literally
really?
jump on him. I've
No,
just got
not
this
literally.
picture now of RuPaul. Poor Richard. It's just like, "Rah!" and then all of a sudden she jumps on him. And there he is, locked in.
Any final comments, mystery voice
like,
person?
tea bags in the sink from May.
Excellent.
Awful.
I have a bad habit of walking away from arguments. That's Lee.
Oh,
Lee.
yes,
I've got lots
avoid
of
them.
hearts and
Oh, wow.
other things.
See,
Thank
I'm
you.
the quiet
Smiley
one.
laughing faces.
I'm the quiet. Oh, we've
Thank
run out
you
of time,
so
haven't we?
much. We are almost out of time. In fact, we're slightly over time. But for watching, make sure you keep commenting. Make sure you keep sharing the video. We are going to do this again in about 2 weeks' time. But before we do go, I just want to talk very briefly about both of you in terms of plans. Because Elaine, I know that you've got lots of things happening here in Leicester at the Curve Theatre. Tell us about it.
Okay, I'm currently writing a piece about Alice Hawkins, the Leicester suffragette, and it is going to be on at Curve in October, so keep looking at that. But I'm looking for volunteers to make banners and all sorts of stuff, and I'm going to be putting some info on my Facebook page. So yeah, I have a voice and I will use it. So it's all about, as a woman,
Fantastic.
having a voice.
And
I'll help.
I'd
Rabia.
love to get involved in something like that, you know, and a lot of the work that we're doing with New Horizons and British Islam is all about that sort of
Look.
sort of feminism, but also a lot of bridge building, you know, between
Absolutely.
different communities and things.
No.
like that.
Very briefly, Islam Awareness Week this week. We had a great event. You had a great event yesterday.
A lovely
which
dine at
we
mine
went
event,
to.
yeah, absolutely packed out in city rooms and town centre.
What was the
and-
idea of it?
And the idea was to bring people of different backgrounds, different religions, different cultures together to just come
Build
together
bridges.
over food
Yeah,
and
build bridges,
and to take build bridges and create understanding between communities, and strengthen one another in times of. You know, when people are trying to divide you, this is a really good opportunity to bring people together and show people what humanity is really all about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. We could have
It's
carried
been a
on talking
pleasure.
forever. And thank you, mystery person whose name I keep mentioning accidentally on purpose.
What's her name?
Behind the scenes.
Janet.
Thank you for